Anna stood on a pile of rubble that had once been her grandmother's garden in Berlin, staring with wide eyes at an unexpected sight. American C-54 planes landing gracefully amidst the gray ruins and dusty airflow above Tempelhof Airport. Her chubby cheeks pressed together as she listened to a constant humming that seemed like distant thunder rolling through broken windows of her home, which lay somewhere in between, barely salvaged by war's cruel hand, but still standing defiantly against the ruins. The C-54 planes were giants compared to everything around. Their massive frames and shiny wings looked out of place on a city that had seen too much destruction already, where even buildings stood as silent witnesses testifying tales of years long past with every cracked window pane. Anna felt an unfamiliar emotion stirring within her, not just the hunger gnawing at her empty stomach, but also something else she couldn't quite name yet: hope. The planes were called candy bombers, a curious nickname given by children, and it didn't take long for Anna to understand why, as they brought more than just food. They carried with them an assortment of things that seemed like treasures in this gray world: clothes, blankets, medicine. It was strange how their enemies were now the ones helping her family survive these trying times by airlifting supplies into a city where once she had seen people laughing and playing freely without fear or boundaries imposed upon them. As Anna watched each plane touch down on Tempelhof's asphalt, an unmistakable sound grew louder in her heart, the hum of gratitude that swelled with every arrival until it became too loud to ignore even when trying not to think about food or safety. She felt a warmth spread through her like sunshine on cold skin. The Americans had promised them freedom, and here before her eyes was proof enough they meant business. Planes full of aid coming from across the ocean straight into Berlin's heart, where hope seemed as distant as stars at nighttime. The rubble pile she stood upon felt like home for a moment. It whispered stories about when life had been different and promised tomorrow, even if just in fleeting images painted by imagination or occasional sightings of these candy bombers that dared to fly into Berlin's skies. She tried not to cry as the reality sank back down around her with each plane taking off after delivering aid. She could feel another part of herself, a little girl who had grown up in peace, now forced by circumstance and necessity on this strange journey where every day was an adventure, but one that came at too great a cost. Tonight's delivery brought with it bread, cheese, even chocolate. The latter made her smile despite all else. Anna had heard of candy before from tales told by older relatives and friends who still existed in some parts away from where she lived now, but this was different because every bite seemed to taste sweeter than those stories ever did. As children gathered around, sharing laughter over simple meals that were a luxury these days, Anna felt her small hands clapping like the rest as they celebrated together against hunger and despair, even if just for a moment, before returning back into empty pockets each time an American plane departed to bring more. The constant drone of engines became background noise while hope washed over them in waves, making heartbeats quicken with anticipation whenever another candy bomber promised relief from their daily struggles against the cold and fear that lurked just beyond sightlines made opaque by dust storms or smoggy air thickened after a rainstorm. And tonight, as each plane took off, leaving behind only memories like footprints on wet sand washed away with every wave crashing onto shore, Anna felt her heart swell not solely for the food that tasted so much better than ever before, but also because of something far greater, a feeling she would come to know well as time passed: trust. Trust in strangers who had become friends over shared meals or stories told by candlelight on balconies where once there were only flickering shadows cast across cracked walls and broken windows. These people, the Americans, with their planes bringing hope to a city that needed it most desperately. Trust grew like ivy around Anna's heart as she watched them day after day. They might not know her name or face, but still somehow knew how much she had lost since everything changed so suddenly and forever. Yet here was proof enough in every parcel unloaded from their metal birds of a world where enemies could indeed become allies. Anna nestled deeper into her blanket as she listened to a distant humming that seemed both alien and comforting, like waves whispered in dreams by seafarers past. The night was still but for this soft sound growing louder with each passing moment, the steady heartbeat of hope arriving on wings from afar. She'd heard stories as a child about distant lands where kindness flowed freely and it seemed that reality had finally caught up to myth in her own world, now teetering between ruin and rebirth. In this chapter, we find Anna seated at the edge of what once was a bustling square, but is today an overgrown patchwork quilt of nature reclaiming its territory amidst crumbling stone facades that whispered tales of glory days long gone by, before famine and fear had turned survival into art. The sky, often cloaked in the heavy gray blanket of smoke from factories, now silent or overrun with ivy's embrace due to neglect, promised not tomorrow, but yesterday, as she watched planes dance across it like metallic birds returning each day without fail. Anna would rise early before dawn and greet her makeshift neighbors outside their fragile shelters, a motley crew of survivors who had come to depend on the regular arrivals from above for sustenance, medicine, and sometimes just an escape from despair's shadow. Each package brought by these mechanical angels was like receiving newsletters across oceans, something new with every crate unveiled, a small but significant victory against darkness that seemed to grow heavier each day without reprieve. Tonight, as the sky cleared for just long enough, and she could see their silhouettes approaching one by one from above like guardian angels, descended upon her world with care in hand or packages wrapped neatly around fragile hopes. Anna's heart ached less than it had on that first flighty day when they promised aid, but brought none. Trust, though a stranger once to her soul as she navigated life after the fallout of change swept through like wildfire without mercy for any who stood in its path or refused shelter beneath an uncaring sky. Trust now began to flourish within this weary heart with every sight that these metal birds afforded. The pilots, clothed not just as bearers, but also as symbols of something beyond their uniforms and badges, some carried stories in the folds of foreign flags draped over shoulders too tired from saving more than they had themselves, were now Anna's unexpected mentors, guiding her through a Labra 01/9 solution. Anna found solace underneath an old, threadbare canopy that offered no real shelter, but was home to stories and laughter shared over meals prepared with the rationed food brought by these American visitors. They had become not just guests in her eyeshades of history-tinged tales woven around twilight's fireflies. They were a testament to humanity enduring when all seemed lost, reaching out across divides born from disaster and misfortune that turned the world upside down. In this chapter, titled Chapter 2, New Beginnings on Old Ground, we delve into how Anna's interactions with these strangers, who had become her family in a broader, more hopeful sense, started to mend not only fractured bones and spirits, but the very fabric of community that once seemed beyond repair. As they gathered by candlelight each evening after their work was done for those still unbarred against threats unseen or unknown like whispers from an angry earth, Anna witnessed a unity born out of shared experiences, fostered through compassion and understanding as potent medicines themselves in times when even the most basic necessities were luxuries. Each individual brought their unique strengths to this tapestry woven under flickering shadows that once played across cracked walls. A retired nurse whose hands still remembered how to care and engineer with tools and knowledge of mechanics enough for salvaging parts from the remnants like phoenix feathers eagerly awaiting rebirth's plane. These strangers spoke different tongues but found common ground in language spoken through actions that transcended words, a universal dialect understood by all who had known loss or fear yet refused to let it define their lives forevermore. Anna's days became an exercise of gratitude and growth as she learned not just from the lessons imparted upon her, but also watched them in motion, like threads being woven into a new pattern for life itself. One where trust grew steadily around this heart once suspicious, now fortified underneath a sky painted with hues of twilight, orange, and purple. That same canvas stretched on each night. Anna felt at peace within these walls now, filled not only by hope but also warmth, as they sat together around their meager dinner table once more in the flicker of candlelight. The air was heavy with a sense of shared purpose. Everyone had something to contribute, and no one wanted anything taken for granted. Even this simple act became an offering, both physical sustenance provided by hands that refused to idle, nor emotional nourishment drawn from stories told in the language of actions rather than words alone. Anna looked around at her companions as they all played a part in not only rebuilding but also healing themselves through their interactions and endeavors. It was during these meals how Anna learned that, while each possessed unique skills like knowledge passed down from generations or insights gained over years of hard work, the retired nurse shared tales about the times she'd cared for more than her own family knew existed. Stories imbued with love and compassion were as vital to their existence here as food on our table. They fed not just bodies, but souls too, weaving an intricate network of support that spanned beyond mere survival. In the days following this realization, where camaraderie was fostered through heartfelt exchanges and shared laughter found a way back into their lives despite all odds, Anna discovered strength she didn't know resided within her. It wasn't just about finding shelter or food anymore, but also rediscovering humanity. This notion of community blossomed under the watchful eyes that had once kept vigil over these ruins and now looked upon them with a gentle understanding. They could feel Anna growing in ways no one anticipated as she embraced her role, not just surviving within this fragile ecosystem, but contributing to it actively. Amidst their shared vulnerabilities, an unspoken agreement of trust enveloped everyone like the warmth from a hearth's embrace on cold winter nights. Anna no longer felt alone in her fear and confusion, instead found solace through newfound friendships forged with those who had once been strangers to each other. They built not just structures but also bonds that would outlive them all as they worked side by side, their hands working like the nurturing of a mother bird tending to her chicks. Every brick laid was an act of defiance against despair and hope. It became clear with time how unity could be born from such trials through compassion's soothing balm. As days turned into night, Anna held on tightly onto the belief that together they would make something beautiful out of this chaos. She began to trust not only her own instinct, but also those around. A sense of safety was woven from every interaction where fear had once reigned supreme within these walls. Their unity stood as an unspoken promise for tomorrow, while today saw them find strength in their collective resolve, creating something out of nothing more significant than mere survival. It felt like they were constructing not just shelters, but also a new life, one where fears dwindled under the weight of shared dreams and aspirations. The journey ahead was uncertain, yet imbued with an unwavering spirit that had never been as strong within Anna before these times. She found purpose in helping others heal while simultaneously finding solace through their own growth. Every small victory earned them a step further away from the hollow echo of past failures. The camaraderie they shared, born out of necessity and forged into something truly beautiful, was like watching tiny seeds blossom under sunlight's touch, together as one body moving towards tomorrow with hope in their hearts. Anna knew that no matter what came next, this resilience within them would always be there to carry through. In the end, they all found themselves not just surviving but thriving amidst adversity, a testament to human spirit's indomitable will when faced with challenges beyond imagination. It was an era where life became more about what one shared rather than hoarded for self. Anna learned that trust wasn't something given freely, but earned through actions and understanding as they journeyed forward hand in hand. Together under the same sky painted by twilight hues of orange and purple, this community once broken now stood united. Their tale was one not just about surviving against all odds, but also living with purpose that would echo throughout history, reminding everyone who heard it for generations to come how even in times where darkness loomed large, humanity's light could still prevail. As twilight hues of orange and purple painted the sky above them like brushstrokes on a canvas, Anna looked over to her companions with eyes that held both fatigue and hopeful anticipation for what lay ahead in their shared journey. It had been years since they first set foot into this land together, each one carrying scars from past failures as deep as the roots of ancient trees surrounding them, now cradling a newfound village within its embrace. Anna remembered when it all began, back during those trying times in their homeland before everything had fallen apart. How they'd come to seek refuge here under different skies, but with hearts united by necessity and the will for survival against insurmountable odds. The journey itself was a testament of human resilience, not just enduring, but transforming adversity into something that bonded their spirits closer than any metal had ever done before. In this new world, where they all shared what little resources there were and worked together towards common goals without the specter of greed clouding their judgment, like it once did back home. Each day brought them further from the hollow echoes of failure, drawing instead on trust, that was earned through understanding actions rather than freely given. The camaraderie they shared had blossomed into a beautiful symbiosis where everyone contributed according to their skills and abilities while nurturing one another's growth with kindness as the sunlight. For those tiny seeds of hope Anna knew were sown in them long ago when trust wasn't freely given but earned through actions. Understanding was fostered. They learned that every small act could sow ripples of change and unity within their tight-knit community, which now thrived amidst the adversity they once thought would doom them to a life devoid of joy or purpose. As Anna took her place at the communal fire with others, sharing stories from home that brought laughter despite heartache felt deep inside for those left behind, she realized how much they had grown together, not just surviving but living lives filled with meaning and richness beyond what their homeland could offer them. It was a testament to human spirit's willpower when faced with challenges far greater than any one person might handle alone, as each shared experience bonded them closer in ways that were profoundly healing for every soul present at the fire's warmth. This community, once broken, now stood united under skies painted by twilight hues of orange and purple. She thought back to when they had first embarked upon their journey, carrying only what little each person could manage alone, with an intangible hope that life in the new land would offer them a better tomorrow than any despairing present. How far this village stood testament against all odds, where survival was not just about making it through another day, but living lives built on purpose, love, and shared dreams. As night descended upon their little piece of paradise, with stars shining down like benevolent eyes witness to the indomitable human spirit that illuminated this place, Anna felt a sense of pride for what they had accomplished, something far greater than mere survival, but thriving, standing as an example before others who might one day hear their tale and find within themselves strengths unbeknownst. And so the story continued to unfold under starlit skies, with hope in every heart, knowing that no matter how dark times may come or where they found themselves, together this community will always be there for each other through thickets of challenges, sharing not just burdens, but also dreams and aspirations, a reminder echoed throughout history to generations yet unborn. The night wooed on with promises whispered among the trees as wind carried tales from lands both near and far, while Anna's mind soared beyond horizons, her heart anchored deeply within this haven they had built together against all odds, a place where trust wasn't freely given but earned through actions and understanding. As dawn crept upon their land, with gentle fingers lifting the darkness like waves lapping at shores, Anna knew that every soul present would rise, emboldened by shared experiences of growth amidst adversity, for this was no ordinary tale about mere survival or thriving in a new world. It spoke to something greater, reminding all who heard it how even when darkness loomed large and seemed impenetrable, human spirit's light could still prevail, like morning breaking through the night sky's embrace, illuminating paths towards hopeful tomorrows filled with purpose built on trust earned, not freely given, but worked for day by hard-fought day. With that thought in mind, and a smile touching her lips before Doctor, as dawn crept upon their land, with gentle fingers lifting the darkness like waves lapping at shores, Anna knew that every soul present would rise, emboldened by shared experiences of growth amidst adversity. For this was no ordinary tale about mere survival or thriving in a new world. It spoke to something greater, reminding all who heard it how even when darkness loomed large and seemed impenetrable, the human spirit's light could still prevail, like morning breaking through the night sky's embrace, illuminating paths towards hopeful tomorrows filled with purpose built on trust earned, not freely given, but worked for day by hard-fought day. With that thought in mind, and a smile touching her lips before drifting into dreamland herself, Anna's thoughts ebbed away from the world she had helped shape to find solace within this tranquil haven of their own making, each heartbeat resonating with shared triumph over trials. The symphony of nature's melody serenaded her as night turned its back on them, like a gentle guardian, assuring that every whispered secret and dream under the canopy was safe within the sacred space they had cultivated together, where each person's voice blended harmoniously into an anthem of resilience. In Chapter 5, we find ourselves nestled in the embrace of twilight's last gleaming as a new chapter unfolds for our protagonists and their community, born from unity, woven with threads bold and browned by hope's warm glow. Each character stepping forward, like actors on life's grand stage, playing roles they were destined to embody through trials of fire that only the night had witnessed. Among them was Aline, a young artisan whose hands could mold clay with an ease reminiscent of how water caresses pebbles along stream beds, his creations not merely objects but vessels carrying stories, hopes, and fears as tangible as their earthly origins. Though he had arrived alone years ago from the city's cacophony that never slept, its sirens calling him into a life of ceaseless motion, the Ilian found solace in his craft here, where silence was not merely present, but revered an oasis amidst desert sands and shadow. As Anna watched, she saw how the community had come to value this quietude just as they cherished their bounty, for it gave birth to a different kind of wealth, one that could only be gleaned from stillness within, which allowed introspection and exploration not into themselves but together with others. The night's canvas bore witness to Ilian's latest creation, shaped by hands both steady and tender-hearted. His art became their collective memory encapsulated in earthen form, a testament that life here held beauty more profound than mere survival forged from the ashes of lost world. Within this haven's embrace lay Elira, once an astrophysicist, whose eyes had always looked beyond to stars and galaxies afar, finding her purpose redirected in studying not celestial bodies, but those that wander amongst them, each star a storyteller whispering tales of birthright under the night sky's canopy. Her curiosity forged paths through darkness where others saw none, illuminating possibilities with thoughts as bright as comets streaking across firmaments unknown to this land, and in doing so became an anchor not just grounded by her intellect, but also uplifted by shared human experiences that the night had gathered within their midst. Here, too, moved Ilir, a historian, whose wisdom came from threads woven through time's tapestry, his life lessons drawn from histories untold, tales of old wherein echoes resonated with every choice made and pathway trodden, an archive etched within the very souls that roamed this shared dream. The night bore witness to him as he chronicled not just events but emotions, love letters penned in invisible ink upon parchment of human spirit, a legacy born from understanding past footfalls and how they shaped every step taken forward into unknown tomorrows, imbuing each heart with courage. As the night continued its patient watch over their endeavors, sharing whispers, songs sung by wings through leaves that danced like joyous sprites upon invisible strings of laughter, Anna saw how these souls intertwined in a tapestry where every thread had significance beyond measure, for they were not merely individuals, but custodians guarding against the creeping frostbite, toy-kid spirits threatened at night's edge by darkness incarnate. As dawn's first light began to bleed through Anna's window on that serene spring morning, she was still half asleep but felt a peculiar warmth spreading within her chest, one not born of heat or sunlight, but from the night spent with souls like hers. Each shared story and heartfelt embrace had woven itself into an invisible quilt around them all. It wrapped their collective spirit, shielded by histories richly told in hushed tones beneath a blanket of stars that seemed to approve each tale's telling as if they were narrating the very secrets themselves. Ilir was there at her side again, his presence both constant and comforting. He had become more than just Anna's historian friend, but also an anchor for their shared reverie, a guide through seas of bygone eras where each wave bore lessons that echoed in the hearts around them. With every tale Ilir told from times long past or speculated about futures yet to come, he drew forth connections between then and now. His words were as much an exploration into humanity's depth of feeling as they were a historical account, like threads being spun with each story that bound them closer together. Anna felt the legacy Ilir spoke of, that every soul's journey was interwoven not just through time but also in shared experiences, and this gathering beneath night's gaze had been nothing short of sacred. It became their collective altar where they offered up stories as prayers for understanding. As she closed her eyes amidst the gentle hum of conversation that filled Anna's room with a harmonious symphony, tales intermingling like notes on an ancient melody passed down through generations, and Ilir continued his narration about times when humanity stood united against adversities. He spoke now not just to impart knowledge but also empathy. Sudden silence fell upon them as the world outside began its hush-hushed reverence for sleep, a collective surrender that seemed almost sacred itself, an offering of solace and peace from which Anna felt she could awaken renewed with every shared secret whispered into her ear overnight by this congregation. Ilir's voice softened to the gentle lullaby he had crafted himself as his words painted images in their minds. They saw themselves standing shoulder to shoulder, armed against darkness not just of night, but also that which threatened understanding and compassion among humankind. Anna felt herself a guardian for these ideals. The stories spun by Ilya were threads pulling them together into this tapestry they had created where every soul was vital. Each experience, emotion, lesson shared became an integral part of their collective humanity that no individual could bear alone. In the silent hours before dawn, Anna realized she carried not just her own dreams, but those entrusted to her by these kindred spirits. They were custodians for a legacy where tales weren't merely spoken and heard, they lived within them, as if imbued with life itself, each word etching deeper into the essence of their shared human experience, just like Ilya had said in his chronicle. In every tale told lies the heartbeat of who we are. Listen closely. As Anna's mother called for her from downstairs, she felt a hesitant parting, knowing full well that these moments and bonds were transient yet irrevocably transformative. She wrapped herself in thoughts as one would thread through the eye of history's needle. Each stitch was an act against time itself to preserve what had been gifted by Night's company, a legacy penned not with visible ink, but woven from whispering winds, dancing leads and echoes that linger long after their words fade. With the promise of Ilya's next visit, perhaps even another moonless gathering under starlight, where stories can be shared without fear of intrusion or sunrise to betray them, Anna allowed herself a final glance at her sleep-laden companions, knowing full well that though they may not share in flesh and blood once more, this night's tale would resume on different pages. As she descended the stairs into reality's embrace, with eyes moistened by tears unbidden, for no reason other than to acknowledge what felt like a part of her soul now lived within their shared chronicle, Anna carried forward not just memories, but also an awakening, one where every individual, custodian or otherwise, held the power and duty to honor stories that transcend time. And as she stepped into the daylight, with its first warm rays caress as the night deepened its shades upon her world, outside of these sacred gatherings with Ilya, she found herself nestled at an old wooden desk, one that had borne witness to countless tales, shared in hushed reverence and quiet understanding between only two souls who knew how stories could flourish beyond the spoken word. The air was thick with anticipation as Anna reached out for her quill, its tip trembling lightly on parchment like a leaf swaying hesitantly atop dew-laden grasses in an early morn's breeze. She began to write of the ancient forest that lay beyond where their meetings usually took place, not just any woodland, but one cloaked with mystique and imbued with a consciousness felt by those who had ever set foot upon its soil. Here was an arboreal guardian whose roots delved deep into history's bedrock, while branches stretched towards the heavens in silent supplication for tales that might be told within this sacred grove of timeless whispers and sighing whims, a testament to lives lived, loves lost, secrets shared, all recorded not with pen or brush but through nature's eternal scribe. Anna penned about the wise old oak at the center of this forest clearing, an ancient sentinel whose bark bore inscriptions akin to runic symbols that could only be deciphered by those versed in listening with their souls rather than ears alone, and who knew well how stories were not merely told, but woven into being. It was said the oak had been witness to epochs, its sap running like liquid memories through veins of heartwood that beat steadily beneath bark-clad exteriors seasoned by time's relentless march and caressed nightly by fireflies. Tiny embers flickering with lives lived in the briefest glimmers before being swept away on unseen currents. As Anna's quill continued to dance, she wrote of those who came seeking solace beneath its boughs, scholars and poets alike, some merely passing through as shadows against twilight's canvas, but others whose essence became inseparable from the fabric woven by this living chronicle. There was Elder, a keeper of stories, his words often mere vessels for truth sought within these woods, where it seemed even time itself hesitated to tread lest memories be disturbed too profoundly, were lost entirely amidst their transcriptions onto the pages that lay beneath Anna's careful hands. And so there came a night when Ilya and Anna found themselves alone, as often they did in these clandestine moments of shared solitude, two guardians who understood how stories could traverse realms beyond spoken words or written text, transmuting into something more tangible than mere memory but less malleable to the touch. It was here, under this old oak's watchful gaze, that they embarked upon a silent communion, their hands entwined and spirits interlaced like delicate strands of silk, as if weaving together threads from disparate lines into an intricately patterned tapestry, where each hue represented not just individual souls, but the essence of what it meant to be human. Their fingers traced paths upon parchment that felt simultaneously foreign and familiar, imbuing their creation with a sense of timelessness as if they were etching into stone rather than paper, for no ink could truly capture such profound resonance. The connection between two hearts was an entity unto itself. As stories flowed uninterrupted by spoken words or written text from one to another, Anna and Ilya discovered that their narratives had begun long before they ever met beneath this ancient oak's embrace. Tales spun not just through intention, but a shared understanding of the deepest truth. Love transcends all boundaries. With every passing night in these hallowed groves under moonless skies or starlit canopies, Anna felt herself growing more attuned to this as the moon hung heavy above like silver thread woven into night's rich fabric. Anna reached out her hand to trace another pattern on Ilya's open palm, a gesture of trust that spoke volumes in quiet syllables. She felt as though with each touch upon his skin under this ancient canopy where their roots grew deep and entangled beneath the earth, they were etching into stone memories within her heart's very core. No words or texts could ever convey such a sensation that pulsed through them both, an enduring testament to love's silent music. Ilya watched Anna with eyes reflective of starlight and depth, the kind found only in those who gaze beyond mere appearances into soul's essence. He marveled at how their connection seemed as natural as breathing or drawing water from a wellspring that neither sought nor needed any outside force. Their hands had always been united beneath this grand oak. Now his fingers melded with hers, tracing the outlines of dreams and fears until they formed an indistinguishable clasp within Anna's palm, their spirits interlaced like threads in a tapestry where every color spoke volumes about human existence. Their love had become something more than flesh. It was as if they were two halves of the same entity, separated only by life's capricious whims before fate brought them back together beneath this age-old sentinel tree to rediscover a bond that time itself couldn't erode. As Ilya and Anna lay side by side on soft moss under twinkling constellations overhead, unseen yet felt through the very marrow of their bones, they understood love wasn't about grand declarations or elaborate rituals. Rather, it existed in shared moments woven into a single moment's consciousness. Anna closed her eyes and let out a sigh that seemed to carry with it all the stories encapsulated within this grove, tales of passion, loss, growth, joy, pain, hope, solitude, companionship, each night unraveling new chapters in their collective narrative without utterance or script. Here was love's true form, profoundly simple yet infinitely complex, as they surrendered to the embrace of sleep beneath this timeless oak that had watched over lovers before them. Anna and Ilya knew no words could encapsulate such a sacred union. It flowered in silence, where every touch upon each other's skin whispered tales into being. As dawn approached with its golden fingers stretching lazily across the land to herald daybreak's approach, they reluctantly parted beneath this ancient tree whose roots had become intertwined within their own, a reminder that though moments may pass and journeys evolve in ways unseen by eyes or captured on parchment, yet there was comfort knowing such tales would always carry the essence of what it meant to be human, etched not just into paper, but woven through time itself, as they walked away from their nightly refuge towards home's embrace and tomorrow of promise. Anna felt herself becoming more attuned each day with an understanding that love transcends all boundaries, even those of the heart. And so beneath this oak, where stories had flown uninterrupted by spoken words or written text from one to another throughout countless sunsets and moonlit nights, Ilya and Anna discovered they were walking into a future painted in shades not yet born. For as long as their hearts beat together under the watchful gaze of this old oak that had borne witnesses through ages, it was here that two souls embarked upon an eternal journey hand in hand, where each thread spun from disparate lives now wove seamlessly into one another. As they continued to find themselves more attuned with every passing night in these hallowed groves under moonless skies or starlit canopies, Anna knew that the essence of what it meant to be human was not something captured, but lived, breathed, and shared, as if love itself had whispered in chapter 9 of our tale under an ancient oak's sprawling embrace where time seemed to stand still, Anna and her companion found themselves wrapped in a blanket of serenity so profound that it felt as though they might never leave the sacred ground on which their story unfolded. The night was particularly clear this evening. Stars shone like scattered jewels over their heads, while an untouched breeze rustled through leaves, whispering secrets only hearts could understand. Anna gazed into Ilyr's ice-deep pools of warmth and wonder that seemed to hold the universe itself. Within, the man smiled in silent gratitude for this moment, shared under nature's grand tapestry. A tableau vivant, their story was becoming not just hers, but one belonging equally to him. As they settled upon an aged blanket spread beneath the oak's protective canopy, they had seen many such evenings like these before. The miller reached out and caressed Anna's cheek with a tenderness he seemed unaccustomed, yet wholly at ease in showing. The gentle touch sent shivers down her spine, as if the oak itself conveyed warmth through Ilyr's skin to animate their shared senses more intimately than words ever could, his fingers tracing patterns that told of a man who had known both loss and love, yet found himself whole once again in Anna's presence. In this sacred moment, between two souls entwined beneath the boughs above them, lay an understanding beyond mere romantic sentiments. It was as if every beat of their hearts were echoing through time itself. For each night they spent here, she felt herself growing closer not just to Ilyar, but also into a deeper part of humanity's essence. Love had become her compass and guide within the labyrinth that is life, where heartbeats synchronized with moonlight's glow, were their unwritten sonnets sung in harmonious cadences across generations, lost to time, but remembered here beneath these ancient limbs as if they themselves partook. Their dialogue often ventured into dreamlike territories, tales spun from yarns of hope and resilience, a history intertwined with the very roots that held this tree upright, or living chronicle stretching back to when first these lands were kissed by verdant growth. Stories told not through spoken word, but shared emotion between two people discovering what it meant for their spirits to dance together in tandem. Each tale a step closer towards understanding the universal language of love without needing translation or interpretation. Their dialogue was one with nature itself, where every rustling leaf and sighing breeze carried whispers from eons ago. As Ilyar spoke softly about his ancestors who had lived by this oak's side for generations before him, Anna listened intently, not just to the words of a man so rich in heritage, but also through an open heart that felt every memory resonate within its depths, knowing she was partaking in something far grander than either could fathom. And it is here, under this timeless guardian, where Ilyar's tales wove into hers, creating a tapestry of shared humanity between two souls not born together, but destined to journey side by side, each story folding upon another like origami creations that seemed as intricate and complex, yet simple in essence. Within these sacred groves, where once mighty civilizations had stood tall against the backdrop of time's passage, now whispered promises were made only under this ancient oak's watchful eyes, a pact sealed with shared laughter that echoed off stones left untouched by mortal hands, or testament to bonds not merely built but forged in life's crucible. The very earth seemed imbued with their presence, and as they lay side by side, each night wrapped within the oak's protective embrace, it became clear that here too were roots of a different nature, roots entangled between two individuals, finding solace in shared histories while cultivating new stories together. As dawn approached upon this final evening they spent beneath these wise old limbs, Anna felt herself becoming more tuned with every passing night within the hallowed groves, where not just heartbeats matched, but souls did as well. Every moment here was a step into their shared future, while still steeped in rich pasts that had led them to this very point of convergence. And so, when they rose from beneath the oak's protective canopy, with hands intertwined and feet leading back towards home's embrace, for as they stood beneath its sprawling branches with hands entwined and hearts aflutter, Anna knew that each day spent in these ancient groves had sewn deeper threads into her being's fabric, threads of history woven through their shared laughter like the delicate patterns on origami folds. The oak tree was more than just an arboreal guardian. It stood as a silent witness to countless lovers and friends who sought solace in its shade, binding them all with unseen roots that pulsed through time's continuum like the lifeblood of this very place. On their final night beneath these wise old limbs, night when stars seemed particularly generous to illuminate their shared path forward, Anna and her companion decided upon a name for what they had created here, whispering acorns, as if each time the wind rustled through the leaves, it carried tales of their own love story along with murmurs from those who had come before them. As Dorn's rosy fingers curled around the horizon and heralded a new day, they spoke in hushed tones about where Anna would find this haven againer, secret place, that promised to hold such moments tenderly within its embrace just as surely as these sacred groves had done for eons. And with each word spoken like an incantation of return and belonging, their bond seemed only stronger against the backdrop of time's relentless march forward. The couple decided on a journey homeward, but vowed to keep this chapter alive in memoirs if these groves would always be just around the next bend or behind an ancient oak where they could return and rekindle their connection with history itself, even as it unfolded before them each day. They planned trips back during seasons when leaves painted landscapes afresh or snow blanketed all in a hush of white purity, times that would renew the magic etched into every cornerstone herein touched by human emotion and desire for connection beyond mere words or place, where two hearts found harmony. Upon their return, Anna felt as though she had been reborn to this land with its deep-rooted stories of love's resilience amidst the everlasting cycle of days turning into nights, seasons blossoming and fading like petals on a flower that bloomed within eternity. She promised herself never to forget these hallowed grounds where she had not only witnessed history, but was an unwitting partaker in its continuancer, living echo resonating with the silent songs of countless others who sought love's promise and found it here, even if just for a moment, before time swept them away. Each night spent beneath this oak's protective canopy would now remind her that life was an ever-unfolding origami complex, yet simple in essence, intricate folds of joy, sorrow, and the quiet promise of love's eternal unfoldment against time's endless backdrop. With every return to this sacred space, where routes entangled between two individuals found solace not just within shared histories, but blossomed into fresh tales, yet, until Danner could feel herself becoming more attuned with life's melody, a harmonious symphony of past and present interlaced like the delicate veins on leaves that had borne witness to history's quiet unfolding. As they departed from these groves beneath an expanse, sky now washing golden hues signaling daylight's triumphant return, Anna carried with her a treasure trove of memories and anticipations, her beacon guiding them through the labyrinthine journey that lay ahead, for she knew deep within herself how this sacred space had become an indelible mark upon their souls' maps, charting courses not just in directions homeward, but towards horizons yet to come where love's promise awaited with bated breath and eager hearts ready for the next chapter of life towed for a story still being told beneath these old limbs that had swayed to countless other lovers' whispers before them. And so as they journeyed back towards their respective worlds, Anna felt a profound sense of gratitude not just for this sanctuary and the love it held, but also for its role in shaping her very spirit or testament that even amidst history's echoing chambers, where once powerful empires had risen and fallen to dust, there lay places untouched by time's eroding hand. Places like these sacred groves under the watchful eyes of ancient oaks which cradled secrets in their boughs as if they were treasures meant not for earthly hands, but eternal. As Anna and her beloved wandered back towards their worlds beneath a sky now painted with vibrant strokes of sunrise, they paused under an ancient oak whose limbs had borne witness to countless seasons, caresses upon the earth below it. This place, a sanctuary where love blossomed amidst whispering leaves and secrets as old as time itself, felt like home in their hearts now. A sacred space that promised endurance against history's relentless march forward, much unlike the ephemeral empires of which Anna had once listened to tales from her grandmother. "The stories here are timeless," he said softly as they stood there together for one last shared silence, a momentary reprieve before their individual paths would lead them away again. "They speak not just in the language of nature, but also carry a piece of history that weaves through our very souls." He reached out, brushing his fingers against her cheek as he murmured words meant to comfort and embolden her, tender echo reverberating between their joined hands like an unspoken vow. They had found love in this hallowed ground where the past seemed so alive. It was a truth they would carry with them, not just through memory but also within themselves as living testaments of time's intricate dance. Their journey back to reality began under skies that were shifting like Sant's morning's golden hues, giving way to the brilliance and clarity only sunlight could bestow upon a world teeming with life, ready for its stories to be told anew in chapters yet unwritten. As they descended from their secluded retreat, Anna felt as though she was carrying not just her heart, but also history's weight within it, her legacy of love and the silent psalms that had been hummed by generations before them beneath these very boughs, where now two lovers found each other's embrace. It wasn't until they reached their separate homes, nestled like pearls in a string along cobblestone paths leading back to reality, did Anna realize just how much she was leaving behind, not only the comforting scent of earth and petrichor, but also an entire realm where time held no dominion. She knew that every step forward would be taken with reverence for this place. It had been their refuge from a world too quick to pass, offering instead sanctuary within its ancient embrace while teaching them the value of cherishing moments so tenderly as though they were rare jewels glowing in darkness. As Anna's hand slipped into her pocket where she kept an heirloom locket, her small piece passed down through generations, a symbol not just for love, but also survival and memory itself, she felt the warmth of their time together here seep back within its metal confines. She had learned to find solace in this hidden grove, where every rustle seemed like whispered secrets from ages gone by, guiding her forward with a wisdom that no fleeting heartbeat could hope to match on Earth's surface world, or lesson of love's timelessness and resilience. Within their shared memories lay the promise of continuance, for every whispered word had been imbued within this sacred place by those who came before them, stories etched into its very essence like grooves in a well-worn record that played music only true lovers could hear. As they parted under these old oaks with their roots deep as fate and branches reaching out to the unknown, Anna found comfort knowing she carried within her not just love for one soul, but also an inheritance of history's intimate tales, her legacy born from a grove that held time captive beneath its boughs. And so they would return again when their paths crossed once more in this journey called life, to stand together under the watchful gaze of these ancient sentinels, where love had always been and will forever be woven into nature's own tale, an endless story that began long before them and continues beyond what eyes can see or ears hear. It was here amidst history's silent chambers where empires rose to greet the sun only to bow down at its fall. Yet in this sacred grove under an old oak lay a love so pure it could transcend time itself, her testament that even as all else around them changed with every passing season and age, here they found eternity interlaced within each heartbeat shared beneath the boughs of their guardians. Today held no different significance than any other day spent in this very grove, except the air seemed to thicken with memories as they shared a quiet moment, hands entwined like ropes that had intertwined for centuries beneath them. The breeze carried whispers of past and future alike through the leaves above their heads. It was an ethereal presence here in this hallowed grove, where even time seemed to stand still enough to listen closely, to understand, perhaps, its very essence, like grooves on a well-worn record that played music only true lovers could hear. Anna looked into the soft gaze of her companion and knew it was more than just seen in others' eyes. She saw reflections of countless souls who had found comfort here before them, each one leaving behind an echo in history's intimate tales, her legacy born from this grove that held time captive beneath its boughs. She smiled tenderly at his back as he nodded towards the oaks which bore witness to their love and others alike. They had been here since before either of them were breathing, standing tall like silent sentinels, guarding over secrets etched into every ring on their trunks, or testament that even amidst empires rise and fall beneath suns long set in history's gaze. The ancient oak they had come to know well stood resolute as ever, its gnarled limbs reaching towards the sky with branches intertwined like two people holding onto each other through life's tempests. A silent promise of return when their paths crossed again was etched into Anna's heart just beneath this very tree. It had been years since she first laid eyes upon him, yet every visit here seemed as if they were fated to be together once more, a cycle that looped endlessly like the rings within these mighty trees themselves, each one telling tales of seasons past and love's resilience across ages, long forgotten by all but those who sought refuge in their shared solitude. Anna often thought about what it meant for them to be together again, as if somehow fate had intertwined its threads into every aspect of her life, her legacy that transcended time itself, and wove through the very essence of this sacred grove under an old oak where love's echoes were forever imprinted upon nature's canvas. With each visit to these trees, she felt closer than ever before. Their shared history was no longer just a tale told, but one that lived within the man-living testament born from empires risen and fallen beneath the very boughs they now rested under, as if time itself had been folded upon its own wings. As he squeezed her hand gently, Anna's heart swelled with gratitude for this enduring lover connection that held them together amidst life's unpredictable wings and changing tides of fortune. Here beneath these ancient sentinels, where once great empires had risen to greet the sun only to bow down at its fall, they found themselves wrapped in a cocoon woven from threads, spun by time itself for testament, that love need not be bound solely within days or years, but could transcend even eternity, as if history's silent chambers held an endless story yet to unfold. Within this hallowed grove, beneath the watchful gaze of these ancient oaks whose roots ran deep and branches stretched out towards unknown horizons beyond sight or place, where time itself seemed ensnared in nature's own tale, as if all around them a world had changed, yet here they found themselves untouchable by its relentless passage. In the shadow of this great tree their love was not just remembered. It lived and breathed within every leaf that rustled with tales from ages past, while whispering promises for futures still to come, a legacy born in a grove where time had been captured, as if each moment spent under these sentinels bonded them further together through shared solace amidst history's intimate whispers. As Anna and her companion found comfort beneath the old oak, they knew that their connection was more. As Anna and her companion settled down on one of the ancient stone benches encircling a small brook in this timeless grove, their fingers, intertwined, felt like they were threading through history itself, a delicate touch that was both comforting and enigmatic. They sat there underneath an overcast sky, where rays occasionally pierced the canopy above to paint golden patterns on the ground below them. The air carried a scent of earth after rain, mingling with distant jasmine from nearby meadows, a reminder that even as empires fell and rose around these venerable oaks they sat beneath, nature's perfume remained constant in its presence. Anna looked at the great trunk before them. It stood like a stoic guardian of secrets through seasons past, uncounted by human reckoning. Its bark held stories that no books ever could or chronicle not penned, but grown deep within itself over countless generations. In this place where time seemed to stand still and love's echoes resonated in the heartbeats of every creature nestled around them, Anna felt a profound peace settle upon her soul as she closed her eyes against the soft pattering raindrops that spoke with hushed tones on ancient leaves. Her companion reached for his hand and wrapped it gently within hers, a gesture symbolic of their shared journey through life's unpredictable terrain, which had led them to this secluded grove where echoes of the past lived in whispers carried by wind among these sentinels. As they sat beneath the watchful gaze that seemed almost lifelike from afar, he began sharing his thoughts about their love, way it was nurtured amidst trials and bloomed even brighter under starlight's gentle glow when darkness fell upon them with unrelenting force. With each word Anna thought of him as not just a partner in solitude, but an ally against the eroding tides that sought to wear away their bond, much like water slowly sculpted stone into everlasting monuments under this very sky and through these same trees whose roots anchored them firm within themselves. It was here they found strength or fortification of spirit as palpable as any fortress built by human hands against the vicissitudes that life so often brought forth, a shelter where memories could be savored like fine wine in an onophile's glass, while simultaneously being sealed away to protect their essence from time's potential decay. As they exchanged stories of days spent to moments both mundane and profound that had woven the rich tapestry of this connection, Anna realized how love could indeed transcend beyond mere seasons or years. It was a continuum as endless as these trees' silent sentinels. Their bond seemed to hum with an energy all its own, born from shared laughter and tears that had drenched the earth around them like rain long ago, yet still felt fresh within each droplet of dew on their cheeks when they gazed upon one another now in this sacred grove where time held no dominion, within these ancient sentinels' hallowed grounds, and enveloped by nature's embrace beneath the old oak. Anna could feel her heart opening wider vessel, so full of love that it echoed beyond their own pairing to resonate within every leaf rustling with tales from ages past. They knew then that they were not merely two souls sharing solace amongst these guardians, but embodiments of a legend as old and eternal as the grove itself, custodians charged by fate's invisible hand in an ongoing saga, where their love was both protagonist and constant companion to each other as they lingered beneath this ancient canopy for what felt like hours that stretched into infinity under its protective watch. Anna knew something profound had shifted within her, a transformation as natural and essential as the seasons themselves, which danced above their heads with impassioned fervor even amidst a sky not always so clear. And in this moment of quiet revelation beneath these enduring guardians, where time was but an observer to affection's eternal flame, she whispered into her companion's ear that they had found something far greater than themselves, a legacy written upon the heartstrings tied between them and every tree whose roots delved deep like love itself. Their shared solace amidst history's whispers was not just a refuge, but an altar, where their souls were consecrated with each breath drawn in this living temple, sanctified by nature's immutable presence that surrounded them and the knowledge of enduring beneath these sentinels. Anna felt, as today seemed different, though as the golden hue of dawn stretched across the sky, casting a warm glow over everything living and non-living alike within this verdant sanctuary. Anna sensed an unspoken understanding that transcended any words they could exchange beneath these guardians. She knew now what she had to do. Her heart told stories of love in its purest form as the world slept beyond their bubble of tranquility and truth. With a deep breath, Anna whispered into Thomas's ear, "We have discovered something that lies far beneath our feet, our legacy written upon every leaf within this grove." Her voice was barely audible above nature's serene lullaby as she continued to express her revelation. It wasn't merely their love story, but a shared journey with the very essence of life itself. The trees had witnessed countless generations before them, and now they were partaking in an unbroken lineage that would continue long after their own time came to pass. Thomas listened intently, as he always did when Anna spoke about her deepest thoughts. His heart ached with a knowing warmth for the profound connection she felt, her sense of being forever intertwined within this timeless narrative, where love was not just an emotion, but also history's most beautifully recurrent melody. They lay side by side on the moss-dressed ground as their fingers traced patterns in soft earth and leaves that danced to a rhythm only they could hear, a dance of interconnectedness between human hearts. Tree roots, sky above them, and even time itself seemed irrelevant when measuring against this unique bond. Anna's thoughts drifted further back as she remembered tales her grandmother had told about the grove. How it was said that in times long forgotten, lovers like themselves would meet here too, not just for a single night, but over countless seasons and lifetimes until they became one with nature itself. It felt eerily familiar to what happened now between Anna and Thomas, as if their love had always been destined by the very winds that rustled through these ancient branches, whispering secrets of unwavering devotion hidden within every gust's caress upon their cheeks. They closed their eyes together again. This time it was not just to rest, but also as a silent prayer for understanding and acceptance, their pact between two souls that transcended mere physical existence, where love had always been the key ingredient of life's most elusive potion. The tree above them seemed almost sentient in its gentle swaying motion over their heads. It was as if nature itself conspired to acknowledge this sacred union with a soft murmur only felt within one's chest when standing beneath such revered guardians of time and love alike. As the sun arched higher into an azure sky speckled by clouds that raced across its surface, Anna wrapped her arm around Thomas's shoulders, her gesture as natural to them now in this shared space between humanity and nature as it was centuries before, when first-timers had found solace here under similar circumstances. It felt right. Everything within the grove conspired towards affirming their connection with one another, a bond that resonated through each rooted tree, reaching for life's sustenance from deep beneath the mass. Symbiotic relationship of love and existence between all living things enveloped around this couple who had become so much more than just two people. They knew then what was to come. Their journey ahead would not be easy nor free from trials, but with each other as companions on life's winding path through the ages, their love story continued within them and echoed in every whisper of leaves rustling around this sacred place where time stood still. Anna leaned back against a broad trunk that felt like an old friend supporting her weight, content with their shared solace beneath these guardians who had watched over countless lovers through the centuries before, a silent testament to enduring love's eternal flame within this living temple of nature. She whispered softly into Thomas's ear once more, Our legacy is as twilight draped its velvet hues across the sky and painted a masterpiece of fading light. Anna felt her eyelids grow heavy beneath Thomas's gentle gaze, tender weight that promised repose in this place where time seemed to hold an eternal breath. It was here they had sought refuge under countless moons, their hands entwined as if the very soil embraced them with a warmth beyond measure. Wrapping around like roots delving into nurturing waters below, this ancient grove stood testament not only to nature's endurance, but also of love that dared defy it. The couple had come upon this sacred site during their travels in search for solace and understanding among the ruins where whispers spoke of a past as intertwined with humanity's heartbeat as its very existence. Their place, they believed, was chosen by fate when Anna's eyes first swept over Thomas amidst relics that whispered tales from millennia ago. It had been there under the ancient guardianship of these stoic sentinels, where their souls found resonance with one another, a harmony so profound it seemed as though each leaf and every stone around them conspired to affirm an unspoken bond or shared destiny that transcended mere companionship. With the setting sun casting long, amber fingers through interlaced canopies above, Anna leaned back against a trunk whose rings had borne witness to countless such encounters, each one now part of an unbroken chain where love's flame burned with timeless vigor. A soft breeze danced around them as the grove hummed its hushed melody, lulling her thoughts into a rhythm that mirrored their intertwined hearts beating in time, a symphony composed by nature itself to serenade lovers within this living temple of enduring affection. Thomas's voice was but a murmur as he spoke once more with the tenderness his eyes had never failed to convey. Our legacy is not just what we leave behind, Anna. His words floated like dandelion seeds on an unseen wind, each one settling in her heart and taking root. It was a promise that their love story would extend beyond themselves into the annals of history, becoming as much part of this grove's tale as any before them, intertwined with every leaf's whispered secrets shared through rustling greens, or continuation within each soul they had touched and in those yet to come. As night drew its curtain across the sky's grand theater, stars twinkled into existence above like distant echoes of their own love that now stretched outwards beyond sight or sound, a legacy written not on parchment, but woven within every fibre of being in this sacred place where human hearts met with nature's embrace. Anna and Thomas knew the path ahead would test them. Would they let it break apart like autumn leaves, only to fall away from memory? Or could their love prove as resilient as these eternal guardians that stood watch over countless lovers who had come before, a steadfast flame flickering amidst tempests and calms alike through the ages? The grove seemed to hold them in its embrace, offering solace not just for their weary bodies, but ensuring peace of mind, or sanctuary where time's relentless march felt like a lullaby cradling Anna into dreams she had longed for since that fateful meeting. With each heartbeat shared beneath these sentinels, they fortified the foundation upon which their future would be built, not just as individuals who found comfort in one another's arms amidst nature's bosom, but as a union destined to ripple through generations. Her love story that was and always will be enshrined within this living monument of time. As the first hues of dawn began to stain the night sky with hints of pink, Anna whispered her final thoughts before surrendering herself once again into sleep's sweet release. Our legacy is a love that knows no bounds, an anthem sung by our souls and echoed in every rustling leaf. Together we shall traverse life's winding path with hearts united, for within this grove lies the promise of eternity. And so as night turned into day, Anna closed her eyes to dream of a world where love like their own was cherished and remembered, her legacy born from two beating hearts that found refuge in nature's nurturing embrace. She knew tomorrow would bring new wonders, but also chilling as dawn's soft fingers caressed the sleeping world into wakefulness. Anna found herself cradled in a tranquil silence only broken by distant chirping of birds, and the gentle rustling leaves whispered secrets to those who would listen. She lay on her back beneath an ancient oak tree whose roots had witnessed countless beginnings, just like their's first bloom, the touching handshake, promises made under its sprawling canopy that sheltered them from more than mere elements, but also time itself seemed to bow respectfully as she drifted deeper into her dream. Her thoughts were often interrupted by Michael's tender voice, which sang lullabies of ancient marriages and tales passed down through generations, each story a strand in the tapestry they wove to their lives, braided with golden threads to create something transcendental from their union. They had learned that love was not just an emotion but also a legacy. It required nurturing like any other treasure, and Anna often found solace knowing she shared this responsibility equally alongside Michael, whose own tales of family history instilled in her the importance they placed on preserving such moments for posterity to cherish. As morning light crept further across their sacred grove, it seemed as if even time itself acknowledged that within these woods stood an unspoken covenant between two souls whose love had already begun its paternal journey through the generations of those who would come after the mass story, to be told and retold with every leaf fallen from this very tree. Today, as on countless days before it, Anna awoke not merely out of necessity but also because Michael's heartbeat resonated in her ears even when she closed one eye. He had been beside her all night after they returned to their home nestled within the forest clearing. There was no need for alarm or haste, as both knew that every sunrise brought new beginnings and endless possibilities or cycle of life, where love acted not just as a catalyst, but also as an anchor, grounding them in purposeful existence together while simultaneously reaching out into eternity's embrace. Michael had been awake before dawn to capture the beauty with his camera lens, which he often shared through letters sent via pigeon or quaint tradition from their great-grandparents, who believed that even across distances, one could connect soul to soul and heartbeat to heartbeat in ways no modern technology ever dared attempt. Anna cherished these tangible pieces of Michael's devotion. They were symbols not only of his love for her, but also the enduring legacy she knew their union would become, a narrative that transcended time itself, etched into every memory and shared experience within this enchanted grove where even shadows danced at night as if to celebrate life. Together they had planted a sapling on Michael's birthday 2 years prior. It now stood proudly among the ancient trees that towered above them, serving not only as a marker of their union, but also an heirloom for future generations, or testament to endurance in both love and nature. As they tended this sapling daily with water from herbs gathered by Michael's grandmother, or whispered blessings she had taught him during countless evenings spent under the stars, Anna felt a profound sense of gratitude for their shared existence, their partnership that was as much about honoring where they came from and what lay ahead. This morning brought with it an echoing call to adventure. Michael's grandfather clock chimed melodiously while he set out on his own journey, a routine filled with visits for old friends or walks through the forest that held whispered secrets of their ancestors, or way to connect past and present. It was during these times alone in nature's sanctuary where Anna found her peaceful solace. She could feel Michael's presence even when he wasn't by her side, as if they were forever intertwined within the very essence of this forest grove that had been their witness and cradle. As sunlight now bathed them in its golden glow, while casting dapple shadows through leaves above, Anna reached out with a sigh to Michael's hand, an unspoken wordless communication acknowledging the love they shared without needing words that often failed when emotions ran high, but never quite soared as sweetly. She knew tomorrow would bring its own set of challenges, perhaps trials for their fledgling family, or simply moments to revel in this harmony with nature and each other, a cycle mirrored by the forest around them, which too had seen seasons come, and as dusk began to settle and the forest bathed them with a warm orange hue reminiscent of sunsets from years ago when Michael's grandfather had first introduced him here, teaching patience while waiting for fish in this very stream that whispered tales older than time itself. Anna couldn't help but feel as if they were partaking in something timeless. Their laughter mixed with the gentle rustle of leaves and occasional chatter from woodland creatures created a symphony, one to which only those who had lived through generations could truly listen, or melody that spoke not just about their own story but echoed back stories untold for centuries. Michael's father once told him tales he heard during his youth of ancestors whose journeys were as vast and deep as the ocean, each wave a legacy carried into eternity through brave voyages on wooden ships bound by wind-kissed sails, his own lineage tracing back to seafarers who had braved uncharted waters. Today's journey from Michael wasn't just about honoring his heritage. It was also a pilgrimage of self, where he hoped the forest might reveal secrets locked within its heartwood that could help him understand Anna and himself more intimately as they navigated their shared future. He had brought along an old leather-bound journal filled with pressed flowers from generations past, her family tradition passed down through Michael's lineage, each bloom a testament to the love once nurtured in this same soil that now cradled them both. As Anna watched him carefully unfold one such blossom and press it between pages of yellowed parchment paper, she understood his desire for connection or tethering not just with their past, but also a symbolic gesture to the future they had yet to build together in this very forest sanctuary. The journal wasn't merely an artifact. It was Michael's way of reaching across time and space to touch upon those who once were, felt that sense of unity, which she cherished deeply within her own heart, or feeling as timeless as the love they shared under these same boughs where fairies danced in moonlight-drenched nights. Their fingers brushed lightly over one another's skin like leaves caressing a stone, and Anna closed their eyes to feel each pulse or wordless language that spoke of comfort through countless seasons weathered together or apart, where every heartbeat was an echo from within the forest itself. In this moment they were not just two individuals, but one entity moving as many hearts had done before them in a dance set to the ancient rhythms pulsating beneath their feet, a chorus of life's unending cycle that resonated through Michael and Anna's shared journey. As night began its gentle descent upon the forest, painting it with strokes of indigo and silver stars above twinkling like distant fireflies caught in a moonbeam netting, they each knew this place was their home or haven where roots dug deep into histories rich as any soil. They had found solace here among these trees that whispered wisdom to those who listened with an open heart and mind. Secrets not of theft, but of inheritance inked onto every leaf like tales, scribed by time itself upon bark-encased scrolls or living library, where each chapter was written under their watchful eyes. In this place, Michael's grandfather clock no longer chimed as it had during his childhood. Instead, its steady ticking became the background score for a love story that unfolded with every breath they shared within these woods, which seemed to breathe in synchrony born from understanding and respect. Anna's hands traced patterns on Michael's back underneath her favorite blanket of moss-draped fern as he mirrored the movements over hers, a dance that told stories without words, but with every touch, each look conveyed volumes about an unwavering bond between souls. As they returned to their cozy cabin nestled within this grove, the night began its gentle descent upon the forest once more as Michael and Anna nestled back into their cozy cabin after hours spent exploring every nook of this enchanted woodland realm they called home, a refuge where nature's embrace felt like a protective cloak woven from threads of emerald green, velvet dusk. Their connection here seemed to transcend the mere act of love. It was as if their spirits had found harmony with this sacred place that hummed and whispered in tones only they could understand, or symphony composed by Mother Earth herself for them alone. With each visit, Michael's sense of purpose deepened within his heart like roots seeking water after a long drought. He knew there was something here beyond just the scenic beauty that soothed their souls together. In this living library where history unfurled its pages to those who would listen and learn from it rather than disturb, Michael felt an urge, a calling to preserve these tales etched in bark for future generations as much as he cherished them himself. Anna shared his reverence, but through her own lens of artistry. Every detail here was a muse that inspired her poetry and paintings alike, drawing on the forest's palette like an olden-time sorceress casting spells in watercolors upon canvas, or verses scribed by quill into journals bound with leather from creatures once roamed freely. Her work captured more than just images. It encapsulated feelings and memories as tangible to the touch, smell of damp earth after rain, like sensory snapshots that could be held in one's hand long after they had faded into history themselves, or legacy only her brush or pen would provide. Their love was an unspoken language formed from shared glances and knowing gestures as intricate as the patterns of leaves rustling with secrets about to unfold beneath their feet. A dialogue that needed no words, but rather required eyes open wide, parts listening attentively for echoes between them in this verdant amphitheater. This was where Michael's fingers traced delicate lines over Anna's back as she lay upon him like moss clung to the ancient trunks, their bodies moving together with a fluidity that spoke volumes of trust and affection, each touch imbuing their love story deeper into existence. It felt timeless here in this grove. On nights when they allowed themselves indulgence beyond simple companionship found within these woods' protective embrace, Michael would bring his grandfather clock, its pendulum swayed like a heartbeat echoing the steady rhythm of their own entwined essences. It was an heirloom that served as both sentinel and reminder. Yet, tonight, its absence spoke louder than any chime ever could, because they had found peace in silence, their tranquillity so profound amidst nature's cathedral of greenery, where every star overhead seemed to hold a sparkle reflective not only of moonlight, but also their shared love and aspirations. As the two lovers lay here, side by side on an embroidered quilt that smelled faintly of cedarwood from pine needles ground into fine shavings during autumn rains years ago, gift they'd given each other when first found one another as saplings under this very canopy, Michael felt a serene assurance. Anna's breathing against his chest like the soft patter of rain on leaves, her fingers curling around tendrils of hair that seemed to grow from their bond itself. They were an unbreakable unit in both form and essence, where every shared heartbeat was a verse added to love's eternal poem. Their thoughts often wandered back through the corridors of time, as if retracing steps along ancient trails worn into dirt by generations before them. These woods were not just their sanctuary, but also an archive where they both felt part historians, uncovers of secrets that once seemed lost to ages past. Together with nature's whispered wisdom and the rustling leaves as pages turned underfoot, her testament echoing through time itself, while holding on tightly against life's tempests like roots clutch at rocky earth. They were guardians preserving a legacy, not for accolades, but simply because it was their sacred charge. Their shared journey began with discovery, where once innocent childish curiosity bloomed into something more profound as Michael and Anna unearthed the layers of time that blanket this forest, like peeling back rings in an old trunk to reveal histories within. Each layer brought Michael and Anna sat beneath a grand oak tree whose limbs had cradled countless seasons before the man-natural embrace that spoke of constancy amidst change, just as they found in each other's arms during their nightly ritual under the stars within this ancient forest. The canopy above filtered moonlight into dappling patterns on Anna's skin, and Michael could feel her heartbeat synchronize with nature itself, her steady drum echoing through them both like an unspoken promise of enduring love that had found refuge in their union beneath these trees, where time seemed to pause. As the night deepened its embrace around them, they shared stories, not just as lovers, but scholars intrigued by this place's whispers and secrets, or timeless connection binding them closer with each revelation uncovered in their joint explorations of history woven into these woods. In the past months, Michael had learned to identify plants native to this forest from Anna's extensive knowledge passed down through generations. They traced roots like archaeologists, gently brushing away centuries of earth until artifacts lay bare for them to study and cherish, an act that seemed as natural to their spirits as the very air they breathed. Tonight, with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of pine needles through their fingers, Michael felt an urge within him. It was time once again to delve deeper into this living museum surrounding them, forest's memory held in its rings and soil awaiting his touch. Anna smiled softly at her partner's fervent gaze upon the ground before him as he carefully removed a shard of pottery, darkened by millennia yet untouched by corrosion, from nature or time itself, or peace that once had been part of daily life for someone long since past. As Michael examined his discovery with reverence and Anna peered over his shoulder in shared wonderment, they whispered words lost to history but felt deeply within their souls, a language understood by those who truly listen, the echoes of which resonated through this forest like heartbeats carried on wings. Here was proof that time did not just pass, it lived and breathed with them as it had done for centuries, offering its secrets to these two guardians whose love intertwined their lives with history itself. Their fingers brushed together lightly over the ancient relics they unearthed each evening. Michael's touch was firm yet tender, like a calloused hand that caressed but never bruised, and Anna's gentle curves seemed to mold around him as if made of clay by his own warm presence. They spoke in hushed tones about the lives this forest had witnessed, off festivals celebrated with abandon beneath these very trees, whispered confessions exchanged like sacred vows between young lovers, and battles fought where now lay only peaceful echoes that seemed to resonate from within their own bond's strength. The pair often felt as if they were dancing through time or waltz with past souls whose stories intermingled in the air around them like a symphony of whispers, each note contributing its unique sound while harmonizing together into one continuous melody that only Michael and Anna could truly appreciate. The night's sky was their canvas as they painted dreams upon it, drawing constellations with shared laughter when discoveries led to mythical tales told by the forest itself, tales of spirits guarding sacred grounds or cursed heirs who sought solace in this hidden enclave, only for love's lightness to dispel shadows and lead them astray. With every passing night under these trees that stood as silent sentinels over their shared journey through history, Michael felt a growing certainty within his heart, or conviction born from the depth of connection they held not just in flesh but spirit, an understanding so profound it seemed to transcend time and space. They had become part of this forest's narrative thread itself, as if woven into its tapestry by nature invisible hands, a testament that love could indeed preserve legacies for eternity, just like the ancient oaks themselves bore witness around them every day, steadfast in their endurance through cycles unending. As dawn approached, and with it light's slow intrusion into night's last embrace, Michael wrapped his arm tenderly about Anna's shoulder, a gesture that spoke volumes of a love as deep-rooted and nourishing to the soul as these woods were life itself, where every rustle and leaves was not just sound but symphony, each touch between them more than skin against flesh. They knew their time beneath this majestic oak tree had come, for now Michael felt the warmth radiating through layers that he draped around their intertwined bodies, a tapestry woven not only with threads dyed in hues borrowed from nature's palette, but also imbued with love and shared secrets as ancient as time itself, or secret language known to them both, one where no words were needed for the heart to speak volumes. As he settled into their embrace once more, they surrendered themselves completely. Every wrinkle in Anna's face was a map of laughter lines earned not just from joys, but also tears shed beneath these very branches that had silently witnessed it, alas, silent sentinel as steadfast and unwavering through seasons past. In the stillness, Michael closed his eyes to let their intertwined fingers trace paths across Anna's skin like watercolor paint blending on canvas, a dance of sensations that painted images in her mind's eye, scenes from times when they were mere children playing hide-and-seek among these very trees, youthful games where the world outside seemed as distant and far away then, just now within arm's reach again. Memories flickered through his thoughts like fireflies on a warm summer evening, bright sparks that illuminated forgotten paths back in time when they were not yet aware of love's ability to transcend the very fabric of reality itself, times before this oak had been witness to their first kiss, tender and hesitant as dew upon new leaves. As Michael's mind wandered through bygone days, he remembered with a fond smile how they would often sit at its base during afternoons in the early months of springtime, his hand clasping Anna's lower arm while she rested her head on him as if to become one. The air then was laden not only with petrichor after rainfall, but also anticipation scent that precedes a storm and brings forth life-giving droplets from the skies, which seemed now like an echo of their own burgeoning love. How it had blossomed beneath this very canopy, in those days long ago, when time felt as endless as its shadows stretched across fields beyond sight, days where evenings lulled into a hazy twilight and nights unfurled like velvet curtains in grand theatres of dreams. They promised to each other vows whispered on breath that was cooler than any breeze this forest ever knew. The oak's knotted roots had been cradled them, absorbing their promises as if it were its own silent guardian duty. And now Michael felt the weight of those commitments just beneath his fingertips, a testament to truth that even love's essence could be forged into letter zero and scapes more enduring than stone. Anna stirred gently at their touch, her eyes fluttered open with a soft lightness as if carried by the morning mist itself. She found herself drawn back from memories to realize Michael's embrace that felt like homecoming after wandering through timeless dreamscapes where they had run and laughed together without thought of tomorrow or yesterday. Her heartbeat seemed synchronized with his, a rhythmic harmony as natural and inevitable as the seasons themselves. Their love was an eternal spring blooming between them despite winters that threatened to come upon this sylvan sanctuary at any moment's notice. Michael leaned closer underneath Anna's shoulder blades, his heartbeat a gentle drumming against her backbone as he whispered promises of permanence and passionate timeless oath not just spoken but felt between the intertwining currents that flow within their beating hearts, an ancient melody played by instruments they had yet to name. Even now under this same tree, where every leaf seemed a living note in nature's symphony, he knew love could preserve legacies for eternity just like these oaks bore witness around them each day with steadfast endurance through cycles unending. Anna's gaze lingered on Michael as he continued to whisper into her ear underneath 07432 F65 C8 AF1 Archi 0 Befif 9 Afafabab 9 FDCF the Sectic Dexidected Eddie feed. She found herself sinking deeper, and further away from the world outside their secluded grove. Time seemed to have paused in this hallowed space, where they had sought refuge during storms of heartache and seasons of sorrow. Each moment here with Michael was a reminder that love could indeed be as enduring as oak, weathering all but its own immortality when cradled by two devoted souls. As dawn began to paint the sky in hues of pink and gold, Anna closed her eyes against his warmth, a sensation so different from anything she had felt before, yet familiar, like a homecoming song on repeat through years unremembered since their last embrace beneath this very oak's expansive arms. Michael's lips brushed the side of her jaw, and he held out his hand to guide her into him once more, a gesture that always brought them back from whence they came, two lost birds finding solace in each other amidst life's tempestuous winds. His fingers traced patterns on Anna's skin as if reading braille etched by the heartbeat of their shared dreams, and she responded with a caress upon his arm where he was leaning, a reciprocal exchange that promised more than just physical comfort, but something deeper, an unspoken promise to stand sentinel over one another through every sunrise yet to come. The oak under which they lay had stood firm for centuries, its roots entwined with the very essence of their beings. It was a living monument, not just in this sacred grove, but throughout history, a silent guardian bearing witness to countless lovers' whispers and tender promises beneath similar boughs. Anna closed her eyes once more as Michael drew them close, his heartbeat now sinking with hers at an increasingly gentle rhythm that seemed like the very pulse of life itself. He had always been a part of this natural cadence, constant in their shared existence amidst changing seasons and uncertain futures. As they lay together entwined within nature's cradle, Anna found herself drifting away from her thoughts until only Michael remained vividly present before her closed eyes. She was no longer just a spectator of the world, but an integral part of this shared reality where love had carved out legacies as indelible and timeless as these ancient trees. He nestled even closer, his warmth enveloping her in its steadfast embrace, an unyielding anchor to their souls amidst life's ebb and flow. She knew that together they could endure not just winters of discontent, but also springs where hope blossomed anew with every touch. Michael's breath was a soft murmur against her ear, the sound now less like whispers on paper than resonant echoes within Anna's own chest. He spoke to no one in particular, as his voice carried promises of eternity through words she could feel vibrating along with each beater sonnet sung by two hearts locked together beyond time and tide. Their love was a continuum that stretched outwards into the ether, reaching for horizons unseen, but felt deep within their spirits, an infinite journey where every step taken side by side would be guided not just by fleshly desire, but something far greater, a yearning to transcend mere mortality through shared essence and enduring connection. As the first light of dawn began its slow climb across the sky, Anna found herself no longer a spectator within her own story as Michael's hands wrapped tighter around hers. She was his world in every beat of their unified hearts, their love an eternal spring that flowed ceaselessly between them despite wintering threats beyond this sylvan sanctuary. He nestled closer, and with a voice barely above the rustling leaves overhead he whispered tender vows into her ear. Each word was as vital to their bond as water is to life itself, her sacred rite not just of courtship, but also an unending pledge woven through generations past. Their love, once a mere spark beneath starlit skies, now blazed with the luster of eternity. It had always been more than skin and sinew that held them together. It was something ethereal and transcendent, an alchemy where passion melded soul to soul. The air hummed softly now. The world around them seemed to hold its breath in reverence at their union, or communion deeper than any physical touch, a spiritual link that bound two souls across infinity's span. They were each other and nothing more. The whispers of leaves became murmurs as Michael leaned forward, his voice low but with the strength to move mountains or command seas. Within Anna's spirit her promise made not just for this day, but in a timeless echo that resonated through her very essence. I am here, forever and always. Their shared breath became one as they drew closer under the awakening sky. The sunlight danced upon their intertwined bodies like golden threads weaving an eternal tapestry, a sight to behold that would have stirred envy in gods themselves for its beauty. Each touch spoke volumes, a language of desire and devotion so pure it seemed heaven itself had bestowed this sacred communion. As Michael's lips met Anna's with the gentleness one might afford an ancient sculpture rediscovered after centuries lost to oblivion, her kiss that imprinted upon her soul as indelibly as ink stains parchment. It was a vow made not of words but of flesh, bone, and spirit, and Anna felt the power surge within them both. They were two harps of an immortal whole created by fates more ancient than their lineage could reveal or bond, that would outlast empires crumbled to dust beneath starless skies. Together in this moment was everything, all existence condensed into a singular point where time ceased its march and the heart's yearning transcended earthly concerns. The valley seemed an amphitheatre for their love's eternal play as they moved with grace between trees now reaching toward heaven, or dance of souls choreographed by unseen hands to celebrate a union that promised no parting. It was the sacred rite not just borne upon lips, but in every shared glance, each brush against skim like raindrops on pearly canvases. As Michael's hand found and held Anna's with purposeful intent, an anchor amidst life's tempestuous seas, they were the alchemy of humanity itself, their love a potion brewed from starlight, transcendent to touch yet tangible as morning dew upon thirsty blooms. The world beyond this hallowed ground faded into insignificance while Michael and Anna remained in each other's embracer, testament that even the most powerful forces could not sever a bond so divine. Here, amidst whispered secrets of leaves, rustling symphonies, to their ears alone was where they belonged. And as shadows lengthened with evening's approach and light surrendered its throne for night's gentle rule, an eternal day seemed encapsulated within the cocoon of this sacred space. Anna knew she would carry Michael in her heart forever, a treasure beyond measure nestled deep where love resides. For to be loved was not merely an act, but also an enduring legacy that time itself could never erode, a testament written on eternal parchment within the annals of souls intertwined. It is here they promised their future, under canopies' watchful gaze and moon's silvery approval. And as night enveloped them in its cool embrace, while stars, awakened to bear witness their love, remained a beacon within the darkness where light dared not tread, Michael whispered once more, his voice now threading through Anna's thoughts like silver needles, stitching eternity onto their shared garment of existence. The words were simple yet profound, as they had always been, in affirmation that in each other was the answer to life's greatest enigma. Together we are one, forever and ever. As Anna nestled closer into Michael's side, where warmth flowed like healing balm against her own, as Anna and Michael nestled beneath their favored willow tree, a place where they felt most at peace amongst nature's whispering canopy, a gentle breeze carried on its wings an ancient melody of unity that seemed to echo through time itself. The rustling leaves swayed in harmonious motion as if performing the very symphony Michael had once promised their love was like. Together we are one. The evening air grew cooler, and a sense of tranquility settled upon them both. It felt almost tangible against Anna's cheek. She could still hear Michael's voice, and her thoughts her soothing balm for the soul that seemed to promise eternity with every whispered word he spoke underneath their shared canopy, where stars peered curiously from behind a curtain of silver-brown foliage and moonlight painted everything around them. The world beyond this sacred space continued in its ceaseless spinning or distant hum that felt like an echoscape separating reality from the realm they inhabited together here beneath these willow branches. Yet it was as if Michael's essence lingered close by. His hand still found comfort on Anna's waist wherever she turned. Anna closed her eyes and inhaled deeply, savoring the scent of damp earth intermingled with pine from their morning walk earlier that day through a nearby forest glade, a reminder of nature's beauty as much about its fragrance as it is for visual delight. She felt Michael's presence more potently than ever before, his comforting touch, the sound of laughter they shared at silly jokes told around their campfire on sunny afternoons spent in places where adventure awaited them just beneath a blanket sky studded with promise and mystery, a tapestry woven from threads spun by handcraftsmen long forgotten. As Anna opened her eyes, they were drawn to the glint of moonlight on Michael's ring finger. She knew, without looking, where it shone, because his touch had always been a guiding star in her heart, her constant reminder that love was not just felt, but seen and experienced through everyday moments shared between two souls. Michael's gaze held hers, unblinking yet full of depth, as he spoke once more with the tenderness only true affection could convey, "I am home to you." And in his eyes resided a galaxy where Anna felt her own heart expanding within her, constellation formed by shared dreams and whispered secrets that now seemed like they were carved into their very being. Anna reached for Michael's hand, tracing the contours of calloused knuckles as she replied with a voice softer than velvet, "And I am home to you." The words hung between the mad declaration etched in love's enduring script that transcended spoken language. Their hands clasped tightly, creating an unbreakable bond symbolized not only by their intertwining fingers, but also the very essence of what it meant for two people to be forever together, a promise made beneath this willow where shadows danced and twilight deepened into night. Anna thought about how in his company she had found her courage or bravery that once seemed distant now felt as close as the warmth exuding from Michael's side against hers when they slept under Neope's solar light or beneath a blanket of stars during their campfire tales told with an intensity only heightened by moonlight's touch. Michael, too, had found in Anna his anchor amidst life's tumultuous seas. He was home to her just as she provided safe harbor for him through stormy weather and unforeseen trials, alike a testament that a love so strong could withstand the tempest's fury or calm waters. As night continued its steady advance, encroaching upon their world in waves of darkness punctuated by luminescent celestial bodies above them, Anna felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for this life she had woven together with Michael, her tapestry rich and vibrant, where every thread was a memory they shared. Underneath the watchful gaze of moonlight that seemed to bless their moments in time like sacred rites, Anna knew no matter what tomorrow might bring, or if it ever did come at all, she would hold Michael's hand close as he held hers, souls forever intertwined by love inseparable. And when the night had finally reached its zenith and surrendered back to daylight, Anna felt a serene assurance in her. Anna felt her fingers brush against his as they reached to hold hands once more, a simple act that held the weight of their shared history within its silent promise. He squeezed back, a warmth spreading through both arms like ripples on water. This was love's language spoken in tender pressure and soft touches, rather than words too often lost amidst life's cacophony. Their eyes met with an understanding that transcended the need for speech or silent agreement, to cherish each memory, every laughter-filled night campfire storytelling session, where they would unravel their dreams and fears beneath a tapestry of stars as vast as life's possibilities. Now in this new daylight world outside her window, Anna found herself reflecting on Michael's last words to her before he left for the journey that led him away from them. "Remember me not by where I am, but how you carry my love within your heart." Michael had been a sailor at sea and now sought horizons beyond his own. Yet Anna found herself anchored in gratitude. She would honor their time together with Michael through the days ahead, his favorite poems recited on windy mornings or while watching sunsets paint stories across skies like abstract art. These were rituals born of shared moments and whispered dreams, as they had always been under moonlight's touch when night embraced them in its velvet blanket. As Anna gazed down at her hands, a simple silver locket with Michael's initials engraved on the inside lay against her chest, her memento of his presence, that seemed to pulse now and then as if it yearned for him by virtue alone. She promised herself she would visit this place when solitude called upon them both again, rekindling their shared past through tactile memories like kindling sparks in the night's coolness before a campfire's flame took hold of warmth and comfort once more within her heart. Amidst thoughts that danced between joy from Michael's new adventures and sorrow at his absence, Anna felt an overwhelming surge of strength or conviction to live each day fully aware she carried a piece of him with every beat of the world in motion around them both. The bench had become their sanctuary. It was here that they pledged never to let life's stormy seas sever ties, choosing instead not just a safe harbor, but also embarkation from whence love would anchor and empower each journey taken alone or together under the open sky. Their laughter still echoed in her ears, a sound that seemed timeless even now. It was this symphony of joy they shared, one she vowed to play on invisible violins whenever melancholy sought residence within these newly opened chapters without his side by heart's warmth. As the sun ascended higher and began its relentless ascent across a cerulean canvas above them, Anna imagined their footprints beneath it, her constellation of human experience, sculpted upon earth's crust that told tales not just for themselves, but all who had found solace within this hidden glade. There was magic in the way she felt Michael's presence beside her. Even as he journeyed towards horizons unfathomable, Anna understood his spirit remained a compass guiding through untraveled paths and unknown worlds where love's echoes resonated with courageous hearts alike. Within this sacred space of nature's embrace amidst trees that whispered secrets older than time itself, and skies that held the birthright to infinite stories yet, till Danner knew her path forward was one woven from threads golden as Michael's last laughter, a tapestry rich with love, even when untied by distance. As she stood up briskly but gently on bare feet kissed with dew and grasses beneath them that spoke of resilience in simplicity's embrace, it was clear to Anna this day would not just pass another hour into the next. It marked a new chapter, one where Anna could feel Michael's laughter resonating in her soul as she traced his footsteps on the soft earth, each one imprinting a memory of their shared journey. As dawn began to break through the curtains that framed nature's sanctuary outside, Anna found herself cradling an acorn against her cheek, a symbol of life's cycles and beginnings as profound within these woods as Michael had been in every part of it before his departure. The air was filled with the symphony of morning birdsong that seemed to carry whispers from realms untouched by time, where secrets nestled among fern fronds were treasures more valuable than gold. Anna closed her eyes and let herself be transported back to their first meeting in this glade, serendipitous encounter beneath the ancient oak that had stood witness to countless seasons before them both found its way into these pages of history, where love was immortalized amidst nature's quiet splendor. With a tender sigh, Anna opened her eyes and walked towards their favorite glade bench, still fresh with dew under the early light filtering through leaves like prism mosaic painting on the ground below them. She took out 2 steaming cups of tea from inside, as Michael's voice echoed in her thoughts. "You know how to make it just right for you." She remembered his hands, warm and delicate when they wrapped around hers at night under this very sky, telling tales not only by words but through touch. The bench had been their refuge during countless evenings, where the world's weight seemed a distant echo in these sacred groves that hummed with stories, untold yet deeply felt within Anna's heart. As she settled onto the weathered wood, her fingers found solace in wrapping around an embroidered bookmark or piece of Michael gifted to mark where their story paused for now, a simple golden thread looping through scenes that held laughter and dreams together like intertwined vines on old stone walls. Their conversations had been lively debates about philosophical quandaries, life's purpose woven with the threads of humor as they sought solace in these very groves where Michael's spirit seemed to roam freely beyond the veil that separated their world from his uncharted travels. They spoke of constellations not just for navigation but also as metaphors. Michael, a navigator by heart's desire, and Anna finding her way through reflections in starlight on water surfaces when he was far away. Together they explored the edges of this hidden world where magic whispered among leaves that danced with every breath taken here. Each day brought new wonders, like discovering a rare flower or identifying birdsong patterns, as seasonal shifts painted time in hues beyond human comprehension and experience no guidebook could encapsulate. Today, Anna felt the weight of solitude amidst this shared sacred space where Michael's essence was always with her though he journeyed afar. His laughter became a compass pointing towards moments yet to come and stories she only begun writing alongside him, or narrative that continued even as their paths diverged but never severing the bond of understanding, empathy, respect. As Anna sipped on her tea, letting its warmth seep into every corner untouched by night's chill, a gentle breeze carried with it an essence of Michael's presence, a reminder that love does not need eyes to see or ears to hear. Sometimes the heart knows where one has been and is always home. With each sip, Anna felt as if her feet trod on this earth alongside him again today. In some distant timeline their hearts could traverse unhindered by physical separation or journey through memories that time itself dared not erode with its relentless march forward. It was within these woods where she had found strength to face the uncertainties of life, knowing Michael's spirit would always be her anchor in times when tides turned tumultuous and waves seemed insurmountable. She smiled as a gentle dewdrop clung precariously on an overhanging leaf before cascading down like a crystal rain, or metaphor for their love that had not diminished with distance, but rather found new ways to nourish even when apart, much like how roots stretched deep and wide in search of sustenance. Anna opened her journal beside the bench where she inscribed thoughts sporadically throughout these days, her logbook for both hearts that needed no witnesses beyond their own testament, as they chronicled love's journey through trials. Tread as dusk settled like a velvet shroud over Anna's quaint village nestled in the embrace of ancient woods, she found herself drawn once more to her favorite bench beside an old oak tree that had borne witness to countless tales spun between lovers and friends. The evening air was cool against her cheeks as memories swirled around like leaves caught in a gentle wind, testament to the enduring spirit of Michael, whose essence seemed intertwined with each rustle of foliage, that whispered secrets only their souls could understand. The woods here were not just canopies and underbrush. They held echoes of laughter shared in secret glens where time stood still between bittersweet farewells, holding them close as if the very soil remembered every tender touch and stolen kiss against its roots. Tonight was no different. Her tapestry woven from threads of their past experiences would unfold beneath a sky painted with stars that bore silent testimony to her storytelling soul's desire for solace in narrative, one chapter at a time as the night deepened around them. Anna closed her journal and set it aside on an adjacent stone slab or personal altar where she etched their journey into permanence through written word that would never falter or fade like so many forgotten dreams of others' hearts, but here remained steadfast as a beacon guiding Anna back to herself. As the fireflies began their nightly dance among twinkling stars overhead, casting specks of light in random patterns across her pathway homeward, she took slow steps towards familiarity creaking wooden porch that greeted every return with a comforting embrace after days spent away. The house stood quietly sentinel against the encroaching night as Anna's thoughts drifted to Michael's last visit before their paths had inexplicably diverged, leaving her heart tethered across continents and seas that would not cease their tumultuous flow beneath them both. Inside, she lit candles with fingers trembling from the weight of remembrance, as shadows played upon walls lined with bookshelves harboring tales of far-off lands they had longed to visit together but were denied by circumstances. Cruel hand or bitter pang in her chest for adventures that might have been. Yet, within these four sturdy walls where she once shared a bed and whispered sweet nothings into Michael's ear, as night descended upon the world outside their window, there was solace too, comfort found amidst books stacked like monuments to knowledge they had gained together through love's own trial. Anna curled on her well-worn armchair by the fireplace where embers crackled and popped in a rhythm that seemed almost hauntingly familiar, as if each spark was an echo of Michael's laughter or his warmth against her Skinner symphony for one. She traced patterns on its surface, with fingertips grizzled from the sun's kiss and rain's caress, until she felt a gentle touch upon her shoulder, startling as though he had indeed materialized beside her in that very moment of solitude within their shared home's heartbeat. She glanced up to see Michael, a partner for years, untouched by death itself, but often visited by pain through the loss and absence. They faced together across time zones vast enough to swallow whole villages, without a trace left behind in its wake. His eyes, reflecting her own as she sat near him on the same armchair where so many evenings had unfolded into nights of shared dreams until fate's cruel hand tore them apart, and they were thrust onto separate timelines, yet strangely united through a bond that transcended the physical. He was here now, breathing beside her as if no chasm could ever sever their closeness, even though thousands of miles stood between, a presence felt rather than seen, but deeply known in every silent conversation shared without words or touch beyond these four walls where they both belonged and yet somehow never truly were again alone. The warmth from his side was like a hearth within her soul, an unwavering flame that had become their guiding light through the labyrinth of life's unfathomable challenges laid bare before them on this night, when memories seemed to bleed into reality as watercolor's ink blots. Anna spoke softly, each syllable a caress upon his ear, like petals landing delicately after rainer melody of sounds that told tales without needing an audience beyond their own hearts and minds, where the language was one only they knew. How the night wore on slowly. The hours ticked by like drops falling into an endless sea until they reached what seemed to be eternity or span, when reality softened around her, making it hard for Anna's heart not to flutter with hope despite knowing that he was but a wisp of memory in another life. She often found herself lost within the realms painted across ancient canvases and forgotten tomes nestled on his bookshelf as their hands once danced over these same pages, fingers tracing lines as old as time itself, while they unraveled stories woven with threads of magic so vivid that even now Anna's mind could not help but drift back to those shared tales and the bond it forged between them. As if compelled by an invisible force guiding their conversation, she turned her eyes toward him when he finally lifted his gaze, a reflection in a mirror of souls who had once traversed paths together through storms that raged beyond mere weather into tempests of the heart and mind. Yet here they were again at this same armchair where echoes of laughter remained suspended like captured stars. Anna spoke softly, her voice weaving a tapestry as delicate and intricate as spider silk in moonlight, her words painting pictures upon his ears that held the power to transport him back across worlds without ever leaving this very room where their essences had mingled so intimately. Each syllable was imbued with such sweetness it could only belong within a sanctuary of pure love, one untouched by time's merciless progression nor the cruelty fate wielded upon mortal hearts like hers and his entwined destinies that had been sundered. They shared stories no longer about them, but rather tales from lands afar, voices long silenced or lost to history, whispering secrets of ancient civilizations where gods walked among men, offering wisdom transcending their own existence. The legends spoke not just for entertainment's sake as it might in other realms. Instead, these stories held within them an undercurrent of life lessons and truth that resonated with Anna's solar reflection on how even across worlds apart they could find common ground through shared humanity wrapped up into narratives spun by those who had come before. As night deepened its embrace around the room, so too did their connection grow stronger, a bond forged in silent understanding and mutual respect that transcended mere physical presence, their sacred communion, where two beings could share an unbreakable link despite countless eons apart or vast seas dividing continents. Within this shared reverie, Anna reached across the invisible divide to touch his hand as if their fingers had never left each other's side since that fateful evening when they first met, her sensation so profoundly real it defied explanation, even amidst a night where dreams and reality blurred into one another like oil upon water. Their conversation flowed seamlessly, words unspoken, but understood between them as if whispered by the wind itself. Each sentence was an offering of love that transcended mere language or connection, deeper than emotion or memory alone could forge, and yet intangible enough to remain a mystery even within their own hearts. As she looked upon his face, it seemed imprinted with every detail etched into her mind's eye since they first laid eyes on each other. The contours of lips that had once moved in harmony now remained static, but no less beautiful for its absence, a reminder of a love too profound to be contained within mere flesh and bone. Within their shared silence, Anna found herself speaking thoughts unspoken aloud, as if her words carried the weight of worlds upon them. Even without his reply or touch by which they were bound across lifetimes, she felt heard her testament that in this realm where time held no dominion over them both. And so, with each passing moment within their shared space, Anna's heart continued to beat, a rhythm synchronized only within a realm where time held no dominion over them both. Anna's heart continued to beat in synchrony with memories that were as vivid as they had been when their paths first crossed a century ago on an ordinary Thursday afternoon under the amber glow of twilight. It was then that history became a tangible thread between her and him, not merely for what transpired, but how enduringly it lingered in each other's souls, echoing through ages with silent promises whispered into existence on every meeting beyond time itself, her paradoxical loop where their past was both infinite yet fleeting. As the night deepened and stars emerged to witness an eternal connection unfold beneath them like a celestial ballet, she felt his presence around her once more, though he had never physically aged nor vanished from existence in this afterlife of love they shared, in essence perpetually cradled within their mutual gaze. It seemed as if the night itself conspired to shroud them beneath its velvet embrace, where reality and dreams wove together seamlessly into a tapestry that enveloped her soul in warmth beyond mere physical touch or spoken word. The air carried his scent like an invisible perfume, an olfactory melody of lavender mixed with the fresh earthiness of rain-soaked leaves, evoking images and sensations dormant within their shared history's embrace. Every inhalation was a step forward through years that had not passed nor could ever truly be recounted. Anna's heart synchronized to his very pulsar, symphony they alone composed together across the boundaries of time, where each beat resonated with an echo from their first encounter under twilight skies. It felt as if he was standing beside her once more within this shared dreamlike space that defied explanation even in waking life. His eyes, vibrant and full of youthful promise, now carried the wisdom born only by those who had lived beyond their earthly years yet remained untouched, undimmed. They mirrored her own gaze as though to remind both that love is not merely a feeling but an essence imprint within one's very being. As she looked upon his face, it seemed etched with every detail of the life he had lived together, and a part her testament that their souls were forever intertwined despite physical absence or spatial constraints. Each shared moment was as if reaffirmed by this mirrored visage before her eyes under Knight's watchful gaze. Within this communion between heartbeats, Anna discovered a language beyond words, an unspoken dialect of the soul that transcended time and circumstance yet remained intangible to all but them, as if their spirits had danced together since before birth or death itself held sway over mortal lives. Their shared silence became an affirmation stronger than any spoken vow, each breath a bridge spanning vast chasms that no physical distance could render connection so profound it defied the laws of physics and reason alike. Their union was not merely emotional but elemental in its very essence. Their gazes lingered upon one another with such intensity, as if seeking to unlock secrets buried deep within each other's being, or silent communion that spoke volumes more than any words ever could convey, and yet remained impenetrable even unto themselves, a connection so intrinsic it felt like homecoming rather than mere coincidence or destiny. Even amidst the shifting sands of time, they found solace in their shared existence, forged from moments lost to history, but always present within each other's hearts, or love story inscribed upon eternity itself. A tale that began with stolen glances and waning moonlight yet continued unabated through the endless night. As dawn approached, threatening their shared sanctuary beneath its rosy fingers of light's tentative caress, Anna felt an aching sense within her solar longing for more time together despite knowing it could never come, a love that was as perennial and unstoppable as the sunrise itself. With each passing second under Knight's watchful gaze, she knew this feeling would persist beyond their separation by daylight's necessity or fate, or bond formed not of flesh but spirit alone, an affirmation so profound it defied explanation even amidst a time when dreaming and waking life were indistinguishable. And as the first gleam of sunrise began to seep through the darkness, Anna's heart felt heavy with gratitude for this love that transcended mere mortality.